Krishna leelas are of many kinds. Predominantly, if they had to be organized, there are two kinds of leelas we see. All the leelas that happen when he is growing up in Gokula, in Vrindavanam, these form a category known as Madhura leelas. Then come the leelas that you see once he leaves Vrindavanam, when he goes on to Mathura, when he kills Kamsa, from there, when he goes on to Dwaraka, when he helps the Pandavas, and ultimately when he facilitates the Kurukshetra Yuddham. These are called as his Aishwarya Leelas. Complete divinity. He shows it in this portion. It's not that the Mathura Leelas don't have the divinity. Paramatma's Divyatvam comes out there in very beautiful ways. But there, that Divyatvam is also cloaked with a great sense of endearment. Because Krishna, he is growing up in Gokula, we can hear the story 1,000 times. But still, there is something endearing about that little boy. That is why year after year, his birthday is that special. Because when you say Kanna ni vava, Manivanna ni vava, you really mean it, because that is Paramatma Tattvam coming to us as a child. When he becomes a Bala, he becomes approachable. But this is one aspect of it. The thing about Krishna is the most mysterious form of Paramatma. This avataram, you cannot fully figure out what is happening as long as you use logic. That underlined statement is as long as you use logic alone. So I'll give you one very beautiful story to demonstrate this before we go into the main context for today. Because if I don't set this punadi, if I don't set this foundation, all of us will go into Rukmini Kalyanam with some amount of confusion about how does Krishna work. This is the question not only that we are asking now, but Gopikas also asked this question. But they didn't ask it loudly. So one day, Krishna, when he is sitting with them in one of the vanas, Vrindavanam has over 12 vanas. One of them is Vrindavana. Brajabhumi has 12 vanas, rather, if I have to be precise. So Krishna is sitting with them on the banks of Yamuna with the gopis, and he tells them, Durvasa Mahamuni is coming. Durvasa Mahamuni is a Nitya Upavasi. However, he is a Mahatma. He is on the other side of the Yamuna. So, you now have the bhagyam of going there, doing some seva for him. You can even offer him a little bit of prasada. Why don't you go and cook something for him? Gopikas were a little confused. If you heard me 1 minute ago, I just said Durvasa Muni is what? Not somebody who keeps getting angry. He is a Nitya Upavasi, but Krishna told them, go and cook for him. Krishna's mystery begins here. Then they agreed and they said, we'll go. But they go to Yamuna, and Yamuna is in full spate. So crossing Yamuna is very difficult. So they come running back to Krishna and they say, how will we go? Yamuna is filled to the brim. So he said, you do one thing. You go to Yamuna Mata, and you tell her that a Nitya Brahmachari is asking for you to give way, and she will give way. So they said, idea antu tumba channagide, but who is this Nitya Brahmachari? Nani. They go. And sure enough, Yamuna Mata listens, and she gives way, and the Gopikas are able to go the other side. So they go, they meet Durvasa Mahamuni, they do seva to him, they offer him food, he eats it, and they decide to return to this side of Brajbhumi. Now again, Yamuna's spate is continuing. So they go back to Durvasa Muni this time and tell him, how do we possibly go? Again, the water is flowing, we cannot cross it. So he says, no problem at all. You go and tell Yamuna Mata that a Nitya Upavasi is asking for the way to be cleared. And they're all wondering, Nitya Upavasi, 30 of us Gopikas just cooked food for him and he ate also. But sure enough, to their surprise, when they come there and they tell Yamuna Mata this, she gives them way. So they come back to Krishna and they say, we don't understand. Nitya Brahmachari, Nitya Upavasi. Neither of you are fitting the conditions. But this story is where Krishna Tattvam lies. What we are defining as Brahmachari is bachelorhood. That is not how Sanskriti defined it at all. Bachelorhood is not the English substitution for that word. Brahmacharya means somebody who is lost in Parabrahma eternally. Somebody who has no identification with the body. Krishna is that. He is Leela Manusha Vigraha. He has come taking the form of a human, but that is as a Leela. He has no attachment. When he has no attachment, anything that he does is also free of attachment. I'm giving this disclaimer so that we understand particularly Krishna's relationship with his Shaktis. It is not to be understood from the concept of, oh, here is a womanizer at work. Similarly, Durvasa Muni is called as a Nitya Upavasi. Upavasam does not mean eating sabudana khichdi 3 times a day. Vasam means to stay. Upa means close by. To stay close by to God that entire day. One of the things that is recommended is to reduce food intake so that you stay closer to God and not closer to food. But Upavasam is not equal to fasting. Upavasam means one who is eternally close to God. Durvasa Muni is like that. So when we look at these terms, when we look at who we are talking about, we will recognize that in Krishna Avataram, all of these challenges, all of these seemingly contrasted ideas will come together and Krishna will challenge the logical mind. It is not to say that Krishna Katha has no logic. Krishna Katha has logic, but it has something beyond logic. And that he shows us in his Leelas. On one hand, the Mathura Leelas, on the other hand, the Aishwarya Leelas. And there are some Leelas where there are moments of endearment when you feel, oh, wow, so sweet this Balakrishna is. And at the same time, you see Prakatana, the expression of divinity. Those are the Leelas which melt the heart but show you his power. One such Leela is this one, Rukmini Kalyanam. Because Rukmini, as a character, it's a wrong word to use for her. A character. She is not a character. Radha is not a character. Satyabhama is not a character. We have gotten into this idea of compartmentalizing and also believing that Krishna has multiple wives. So who does he spend more time with? Radha na, Rukmini na? I'm not very clear on this. All of this, you contrast with Rama Avatar. Ekapatni Vrata. One Sita over there. Here, 16,108. And then this becomes the basis for sexist jokes. I cannot be married to one person. How is he managing 16,000? When we get into this kind of low-level humor, what we miss is the essence of what's being said. One Paramatma. When he came with one Shakti, all his Shakti was concentrated in one form. When he showed the world the power of that Shakti multiplied itself 16,108 times. That is the idea. It is still one Shakti. So that Radha is no different from Rukmini. This context, when we understand, we'll understand why when he married each Bharya, the world saw the power of that Bharya. The world saw what happened when that Bharya came and stood by him. Because Bharya in Sanatana Dharma means Avibhadhya Shakti, that Shakti which cannot leave him. Surya's Bharya is his Kiranas. The rays of the sun are wedded to him because they never leave him. You cannot have sunlight without the rays. That is the idea of Bharya. When we just replace ideas like this, we will see, okay, Rukmini is his Shakti. What Shakti is Rukmini? Radha is his Prema Shakti. What Shakti is Rukmini? If we had to take a guess. Bhakti, okay. The Shakti of his Bhakti, absolutely. Hladini Shakti, yes. But Bhagavatam. The answer to any of these questions is Srimad Bhagavatam because, as we say in Telugu, Ollu Degir Petkun Chadute. If you put all your senses together, you will see every word will have a hint. Because Shuka Yogindra is not telling a story. Shuka Yogindra is revealing a cosmic secret. Where does he place Rukmini Kalyanam in the Bhagavatam? I don't mean which page number. What I mean is, where is it placed in the Grantha? Rukmini Kalyanam, before Rukmini Kalyanam happens, a very important thing happens. Now Rukmini, such a central figure in the Bhagavatam, such a central figure to Krishna's Charitram. But Shuka Yogendra did not start the chapter with her story. He spoke about other things. He said, idaito, idatmele idu aito. And by the way, now let me tell you about Papa, such an important figure. At least you could have started the chapter with her. No? He told two stories, Shuka Yogendra, before coming to Rukmini. The first is about a king called Muchukunda Chakravarti. Muchukunda, the story, the chapter where Rukmini's first entry happens in Bhagavatam, comes saying, Muchukunda das Adha. It says Adha. Adha Muchukunda does a pradakshanam of Krishna and he goes towards Badrikashrama. Muchukunda's story is a very long one, but basically, to condense a very long story, what happens is Muchukunda is asleep inside a cave, and he has a varam. He has a special boon from the Devatas that if anybody wakes him up from that, they will be destroyed. One Rakshasa woke him up, and he was destroyed. But when Muchukunda awoke fully, in that same cave, he saw Paramatma. When he saw Krishna Paramatma, direct he did not get Tatkal to moksha. There is a concept called Kramamukti. In sequence, there is a process. So Krishna tells him, go towards Badrikashrama, go to Gandhamadana Parvata, do sadhana over there, cleanse yourself of your Papa Punya account. Papa Punya account we spoke about detailed 1 year ago when we spoke about Radhashtami, so I will not go into that. Make Papa and Punya both zero, then you will attain your Mukti, O Muchukunda. He goes. This is the first story that he tells. As soon as he does this, he comes out, and Krishna likes to cause some confusion. So Jarasandha, who has been looking for him, finds out that Krishna and Balarama are now together, and they go jumping onto a mountain. Jarasandha decides, if I light a fire around the mountain, both of them kalas. Krishna lets him have that joy for 2 minutes, saying, Saripa, neen chanagiro. You enjoy that feeling for 5 minutes. Imagine one day later when Jarasandha, after all that effort, has discovered, oh, Krishna is not dead after all. These two stories are told in a little bit more elaboration than I mentioned. And then Shukha Yogindra says, O Parikshit, this Krishna who blessed Muchukunda, who ran away from Jarasandha, who pretended to be scared of Jarasandha, this very Krishna came to Vidarbha. Vidarbha is in modern day Maharashtra. This is how Shukha Yogindra tells the story. He tells you the very ending first. And he says, this Krishna came to Vidarbha and he sought Bhishmaka's. Bhishmaka is the name of the king. He sought Bhishmaka's daughter. He sought her hand in marriage. And the words he uses, so beautiful. He says, Pashyatam sarvalokanam tarkshaputra sudhamiva. Pashyatam sarvalokanam. The whole world is watching. Tarkshaputra. Tarksha is Kashyapa. Kashyapa's putra, Garukmanta, Garuda. The way Garuda came to Swarga, and when everybody was watching, he stole the Amrita and he took it back for his mother. The same way this Krishna came in Vidarbha, in Kundinapura, which is the capital of Vidarbha, he came like that and he captured Rukmini and took her. See the comparison, see the context. If you understand this, you'll understand who is Rukmini. Garuda stole what? Krishna came to take Rukmini. Rukmini, Amrita. What is the very beginning of the story? The very beginning of the chapter? Muchukunda takes Krishna's blessings to attain moksha. Moksha, Amrita, Amrita Tattvam, Amrita Mahalakshmi Swarupini is here. This chapter is about Amrita Mahalakshmi and how with Moksha Lakshmi. Rukmini is normally called as Samrajya Lakshmi. That is fair, but it is not the complete description. Rukmini is Moksha Samrajya Lakshmi. With Rukmini's blessings alone, does somebody attain moksha. That is why they began the story with Muchukunda Chakravarti. They are not disconnected pieces. When you connect the dots, that's when the Rangoli forms. That is what we have to do. So here, once they introduce, look at the introduction. Shukha Yogindra begins this by talking about Muchukunda. Then talks about how Krishna ran away from Jarasandha. Then he says, such a Krishna, no, just like Garuda came and stole Amrita, he stole Rukmini like that. And then he pauses. Why? Because Parikshit had to check his WhatsApp notifications. Because he wants to see what is the response of the listener. You can observe this across Puranic Kathas. When Suta Puranikru, when they are telling a story, they will pause in between to check, is the listener responding? Where is the Jiva? How is the Jiva responding? Immediately Parikshit said, I want to know. And he adds one line over there. He said, no matter how much I hear of Krishna Katha, my heart wants to know more and more and more, so please proceed. This is what gives Shukha Yogindra that additional impetus, that the Jiva in front of him is absorbing to its fullest capacity. And now he begins the story. Look at this krama. First, he spoke about tattva, amrita tattva. Amrita tattva has to be earned. You cannot just claim it. So, sadhana. Muchukunda went to do sadhana. Then comes the leela. Vichitra leela it is. When Krishna pretends to be scared of Jarasandha and he says, oh no, Jarasandha may be after me, let me run. And boy, he gave Jarasandha such a great run. That is part of a leela. Moksha is a part of his leela for jivas. So when he begins that leela, first comes the tattva, then the tattva explains itself in the rupa. Rukmini came already as a tattva. After the tattva, now she comes as the rupa. And this is when the story starts. The story is a very, very interesting one because Rukmini Kalyanam, they have called it, this entire story. The Kalyanam he has described in one sentence, one shloka. And I have to talk to you about that for 1.5 hours. Rukmini Kalyanam is not about did she buy her bridal wear from Kanchipuram or did she go to Dharmavaram. Rukmini Kalyanam has very little to do with the physical context of the Kalyanam. It is what brought Rukmini and Krishna together. What were those extraordinary circumstances? And how do you see Rukmini and Krishna both showcasing their power, still pretending as if, oh, what are you talking about? That is Rukmini Kalyanam. The story begins with Shuka Yogendra talking about this king, Bhishmaka. Bhishmaka is the king of Vidarbha. Vidarbha, as many of you know, is in modern day Maharashtra. In this region, the capital of Vidarbha is called as Kundinapura. In Kundinapura, Bhishmaka had 4 sons. Rukmi, Rukmaratha, Rukmabahu, Rukmakesha. And one daughter called Rukmini. Puranic terminology is always suggestive. So much if they are stressing on that Ruk, there must be some meaning to it. We'll come there in some time. This daughter is the youngest. She is the apple of everybody's eye. This is Jagannatha's Amrita Swarupini she is. Now, as this little girl is growing here, from a very young age, Krishna's Nama enters. Bhagavatam will tell you how does Bhagavan Nama and Bhagavad Katha enter? Pravishtam from here. Pravesham is from this. Once it goes in, it goes like a seed and it plants itself. You don't know when the soil will be fertile enough and that will germinate. Rukmini is only displaying this as a leela. She is Mahalakshmi. So for her, the germination of that seed is immediate. The second Krishna Namam goes inside, that's it. She's already fallen in love with him. You see the same context. Puranic kathas are always interlinked. Someone else was born to Daksha Prajapati, and as soon as she was born and she was a girl that was crawling, her mind was devoted to Shiva. Who is that? Same thing with Parvati. Because the Namam has gone in. As soon as the Namam has gone in, it germinates. If we wonder, why doesn't that happen to us? Because there are karma vasanas that are preventing that soil from allowing us to germinate. That is why they said, do Bhagavan Namam as much as you can. It will clear the karma malinyam. Karma malinyam that we don't even know is there will get cleared. So Rukmini is doing this. She's already in a state of love with Krishna. But the situation is different in the outside world. This is when that story is not about something that happened far, 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 far away. It's about something that happens in our own lives. We may be dedicated to Paramatma. What if our surroundings don't allow it? What if the environment around us is not encouraging it? What do you do then? What happens to Rukmini? She is doing her Krishna sadhana without advertising it to Instagram. No get ready with me videos, nothing. Just quiet Krishna sadhana. And as she is doing that, the outside world is taking a very different turn because her brother Rukmi has a strong hatred to Krishna. The thing about Krishna is no, any emotion you have of obsession towards him, even hatred, it's very useful because you'll get one-on-one time with him. The opposite of love is not hate. The opposite of love is apathy. I don't care. I don't care andre ashte. Then there is no hope. I hate andre, that is also Sadgati. Kamsa said I hate. Ravana said I hate. All of them got Sadgati. I'm not advocating for that margam. I'm saying Hate is also a very intense emotion because you plug your full emotions into hate. But when you say, I don't care, you don't invest emotion there. Paramatma is seeking our emotions. So when you divert those emotions towards him, everybody's emotions he will carefully handle and make it a garland and wear it. Rukmini's emotion is of love. Rukmi's, her brother's emotion is of hate. And now starts the tussle. The same tussle only we explored last year for 2 days when we spoke about Astika Nastika Gharshana, Prahalada Hiranyakashipu. Here, it has changed its format. Costume has changed. Internal tattvam is the same. So what happens now? Rukmi has decided whatever it is, she will not marry that Krishna. Rukmi decides to use her wedding, her marriage alliance as a political move. So he wants her to marry Shishupala, who is the crown prince of Chedi, of another region called as Chedi. So there is also one more Kshatriya dharma that he must follow. He must allow the princess Rukmini to choose her own husband. That is the concept of choosing one's own husband is only Swayamvara. Now, he doesn't really want her to choose because he knows who she'll choose. But he has to keep up appearances. So he says, let a Swayamvara be organized. So the Swayamvara is set up. Rukmini tries to talk to her father. It's of no avail. This doesn't come in Moola Bhagavatam. This comes in associated Purana Kathas, where she talks to her other 3 brothers, and they all say, we can only sympathize with you, but we don't have it in us to challenge Rukmi. And the father is too old and too frail to challenge his son. The father is only king as per the post, but the decision maker is Rukmi. So, Rukmini is wondering how to navigate through this complex situation. And here is where something very interesting happens. Because Rukmini that you see up till now is very demure, very, very restrained in her expression. But the Swayamvara has been fixed. And a day before the Swayamvara, Rukmini is in her compartment, in her inner compartment, and she realizes there is no chance now that Krishna will come. Krishna has not been invited. Rukmini was very careful. He did not send an invitation only and only to Krishna, but he's called everybody who will support this alliance of Rukmini and Shishupala. All of them have been called. Bare Krishna ke matra that invitation has not gone. So, as she's figuring out what to do, in that moment, she gives up hope. And when she gives up hope, she's trying to control her tears. Rukmini also, the story of Rukmini talks about how, on one hand, there's internal emotion, but there's also social awareness. Crying during an auspicious function is not encouraged. She doesn't want those teardrops to fall. So she's controlling herself with all her being. And at that moment, a Brahmana walks in. I am taking a slight deviation from Moola Bhagavatam to explore the Bhavam. I will stick to Moola Bhagavatam as much as possible, but we are doing a comprehensive view of Rukmini Kalyanam across both Srimad Bhagavatam, Garga Bhagavatam, as well as multiple Puranas where this story occurs. So what you see over here is Rukmini is very, very disconsolate. And in that moment only somebody comes. How is it in that moment only somebody comes? Till then nobody came. And in that moment, she does something which is very unprincess-like of those times. This person who has come, a Vriddha Brahmana, his name is Sunanda. So she tells Sunanda, I am in love with Dwaraka Nayaka Krishna. Here is a letter from me to him. Take it and go. Very, very challenging of status quo at that time. Now, why does she do this? Sri Vanamalima writes about this in her book, Krishna Leela, where she says, just like the Gopikas lost all sense of their manobhava and they surrendered completely to Krishna and they did not think about the consequences, Rukmini did the same thing. She didn't think, oh, I'm a princess, I have to behave well and say namaskara, namaskara, vadak banni. And I should not say that I'm in love. She just said it out. Bhakti does that. Bhakti paravashyam, that state of intoxication in bhakti, it makes us say what is in our heart. Bhakti and kopa, only those 2 emotions make us speak from the heart. Kopa sometimes will put out what is really inside. Later we'll apologize saying, sorry, I said it when I was angry, but I didn't mean it. But most of the time people mean it. Bhakti does the same thing. Rukmini was in that state of bhakti and despair. which is a very, very strong and a very potent combination to bring out emotions deep within. So, Sunanda is standing in front of her and she's written a letter and she sent it. She said, give it to him. You reach Dwaraka in one night because there is not much time. My Swayamvara is coming up soon. This is what she tells him. Sunanda goes. He takes the fastest horses and goes, and he arrives in Dwaraka. When he arrives in Dwaraka, that note is given to Krishna. But before that, and this is when I'm going to ask you to pay full attention, because the story takes a very, very nuanced turn over here. If you understand this, you'll understand Krishna and Rukmini so beautifully. Krishna sees this Brahmana coming, Sunanda. He sees him coming, he gets down and he goes and receives him. He does Swagata for this Brahmana. Krishna has so many messengers who come to him on a daily basis, but he paid special attention to this messenger. And as soon as he spoke to this messenger, he asked him 5 things. I will just tell you those 5 things. In 10 minutes, can you repeat those 5 things back to me? We will just explore and see why is Krishna speaking like this. Just imagine the context. This messenger has come. Krishna himself has gotten down to see the messenger. Everybody is surprised. This must be somebody very special. Krishna goes, gives him Arghyapadya Achamaniyam, asks him to rest for some time, and then he asks him 5 questions. First thing, Kachit Dvijavara Shrestha Dharmaste Vriddha Sammataha. O Dvijavara, O great one, amongst twice borns, O Dvija, I hope you are following your Swadharma. Number 1, are you following your Swadharma? You have to remember, okay? Number 1, are you following your Swadharma? Second, Santushta Manasas Sada, I hope your mind is constantly at ease. What is the first one? I hope you are doing your Swadharma Palana. Second, I hope your mind is at peace. Santushta Manasas Sada. And then he goes on to say, he said, where somebody is content, then alone, only when somebody is feeling content, then alone does he open himself up to blessings from above. Third point. Fourth point. Even if somebody is extremely accomplished like Indra and they go from level to level, promotion to promotion in the office, but their mind is restless, they will not sleep well, unlike somebody who's poor and happy. And by the way, I hope the king is taking care of you well. These 5 things. I hope you're following your Swadharma. I hope your mind is at ease. I hope you remember that contentment alone can bring blessings. So that is why that message is also for us. In today's time, let's not become content creators, let's become contented. That's enough. And the fourth point, in an endless movement of power and escalation of internal worlds, there is no rest. But in contentment, there is great rest. And finally, I hope the king is taking care of you. If all these conditions you are honoring, to such a Dvijavara, I myself will bow down. Shirasakram, I will bow down my head. This is what he says. Strange thing to say to somebody who has come. Why is he interrogating this Brahmana? If it was anyone else, this wouldn't have happened. They would have said, oh, you've come, you brought a Sandesha. What is the Sandesha? But he does this, and then the Brahmana says, yes, he answers all his questions, and then he says, by the way, there is a Sandesha for you from Rukmini. I says, oh, is it? Oh, give it to me. And then he reads it. Krishna, that is Krishna. Let's see what this Sandesha says. And we'll see why did Krishna say those things. You remember those 5 things. Rukmini Sandesha itself is the heart of the story. This portion of the Bhagavatam, Rukmini Sandesha Parayanam also happens. Many sincere people do this regularly. Unfortunately, it is done as if it is the only key to unlock the door of marriage. But Rukmini Sandesham has far more meanings than just that alone. If you're seeking that, absolutely nothing wrong with doing Parayanam of that. But to say, Rukmini Sandesha, that is important. Rukmini Sandesha, this is a Sandesha from somebody who is in distress, somebody who is in love, who is hopelessly in love. And she has sent that note to her lover. So understandably, it forms the context for those who are seeking to get married. But it has something else in it. So let's see Rukmini Sandesha and unlock layer by layer and see what is this leela about. So the first thing that Rukmini says is, Shrutva Gunan Bhuvana Sundara Shunvatamte. Shrutva Gunan, I've heard about your gunas. This is how she begins. I've heard about your gunas, not about your looks. I've heard about your character. I've heard about your qualities. And those have entered my ear. And your sight has filled my eyes. My heart is full. It's an unabashed expression of her love. Fully, she has just declared, basically, I love you in many, many beautiful words. Now, Rukmini has about 8 to 9 bullet points in beautiful verses. I'll condense them and share them. I've heard about you. Your gunas have entered my heart. After knowing about your gunas, who will not want to marry you? She knows how to speak to a lover. Come and take me. This is what she says. Come and take me. Don't let Shishupala take. Don't let Shishupala come like a jackal and take what is rightfully meant for the lion. She's already, she knows. One is praise him. Oh, she's calling me lover. Now give him little bow. Already, only Vaikuntha Mahalakshmi knows what is the way to make him work. After this is where Rukmini's tattvam, Rukmini's character, strength of character comes. This is not just a plea saying, oh, please come. No. What is the basis? Sanatana Dharma never says that you can just ask and you shall receive. Ask and you shall receive, terms and conditions apply. What are those terms and conditions? Have you lived a life of dharma? This is the biggest question Sanatana Dharma will ask you. If you followed dharma when you had no incentive to follow dharma, when nobody was dangling a fruit in front of you saying, if you do this, you will go Shivalokam avapnuti Shiven Sahamodate, then only we'll read the stotra, means doesn't count. If you read the stotra because you felt like it, if you did the puja because you felt like it, that goes into your account. And Rukmini says, if Bhagavan Pareshaha, that Narayana, is pleased with all the dharma that I have done, what is that dharma? Dharma is just my puja. Dharma is just what I do for those few minutes in front of my mandira. Dharma is my acharana, how I live my life. If I have lived a life where I have donated, where I have not hoarded my wealth, I have passed it on. If I have lived a life where I have been compassionate to others, if I have lived a life observing my niyamas, my rituals, my self-imposed guidelines, and what Shastras ordained for me, if I have done these things, and if by doing these things, Narayana is pleased with me, then you come. So the pattu, so the catch. If 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 are done, and if receiving this Paramatma is pleased, then you come. Otherwise, don't. Look at the confidence you have to have in your own dharma, in your own dharma palana, to say, when I did this, I know that I did it with the purest of hearts. And now, if that has truly been accepted by you, then you come. Same context. In Ashokavanam, Sita says, when Hanuman's tail is burning, she has to ask for that tail to be cooled, because she said, he has come for my sake. He cannot go back damaged. It's not right. She doesn't say, Bhagavan, take care of his tail. She says, if my vratas have been true, yadimam vritta sampannam tatsamagama lalasam sabijanati dharmatma shito bhavan. That is the confidence of a Sita, of a Rukmini. Because we are just seeing the external character. And the external character is not the TV serial characters. The external characters are the ones that are constantly in their swadharma. They're constantly living that life that we can only speak of. And when they are doing that, that accumulates. And there comes a moment in our lives when you can encash that check. You can say, for this, I'm asking for this. But the underlying statement is, all that while when you're doing it, you should not think, ondina, idella encash madi, I'll get one gold box chain done. That's not the way. I do it with love now. Tomorrow, if ever a situation arises, even if I don't remember that I did it, he will remember. And he keeps an account. She is simply laying out the cards and she places this in front of him. This is only her fourth point, by the way. Yeah, this is a letter submitted acknowledging her love, acknowledging his enchanting. Krishna, Vyasanakashakaha, we call him. Krishna is somebody who pulls the jiva towards himself. She accepts fully, I am pulled towards you. Then she says, come, come, come and take me rightfully. And she goads him. And then she says, come if my dharma has been true. If I have been sincere, then you come. And then she says, come to Vidarbha and marry me according to Rakshasa Vivaha. Amongst the different kinds of Vivaha Paddhatis, Rakshasa Vivaha is one. There are 8 kinds of Vivaha Paddhatis. If time permits, we'll go there. That's more of a technical description. So I'm not going, I want to stay with the spirit of Rukmini's letter. So we will stay as much as is possible here. If time permits, later we'll come. Marry me according to Rakshasa Vivaha Paddhati. Rakshasa does not mean somebody who's sticking his teeth out, etc. etc. Rakshasa Vivaha is basically abduct me. Come and kidnap me in front of everybody and take me and go. She has only given him, she has told him what to do, how to do. The next point is even better. She has given her WhatsApp live location. She said, I will be going for my Kula Devi Yatra. My Kula Devi is Gauri Devi. In front of that Gauri Devi temple, you come. I will be there. You take me and you go. It doesn't get better than this. There is nothing left for him to do except cards. But she gives a condition. Lover, no. She has the right to do that. You can be demanding with your lover. Any other relationship in this world, barring 2 relationships, in any other relationship, how demanding you can be is set. There are certain norms. 2 relationships, those don't apply. 1 is that of a lover. 2 is that between Bhakta and Bhagavan. There is no limit to how demanding you can be. She places her demands now. Till now, she built up the context, said, Ille irtini, timing ba, sumne pick up in 5 minutes on the postcard. Come now. Everything she has laid out. But now she says clearly, when you come, Krishna, don't spill the blood of my relatives. The same relatives who have antagonized her, the same people who have refused to let her marry him, they should not die. That is charitra. That is the power of character. I know they're not on my side. I know they don't want me to marry you. But I still have compassion. That is Udara Charita. That is the purpose of sadhana, to open the heart chakra. The purpose of sadhana is not to accumulate punya and tapi to fly to Swarga. The purpose of sadhana is to open our hearts here and now. Because following sadhana when everything is pretty and hunky and dory is lovely. That time the puja mandiram will have multiple lamps. We will all be sitting and doing bhajans. But when somebody disrespects us, when somebody makes us uncomfortable, when somebody's presence or somebody wants what we don't want for our own atmas, but somebody imposes that on us, can we wish them well? That is the question Rukmini asks through the Sandesha. Now this much she puts and she says, she seals the letter, the wax stamp says, if you decide not to come, then there's no meaning in this life for me. I will let it go in the hope that I may take some other life, and in some life you will come. So, whatever has to be done, you do. This is the letter. The letter has gone through beautiful tones, showcasing the depth of her inner sadhana, but also her ultimate. Not agidre ba. Neen bandilla andre ashte. You didn't come, that's it. Because there's nothing left in this. The letter doesn't leave anything to imagination. Who, what, where, when, why, everything is clear. This is the letter. Krishna doesn't respond to this letter. The Brahmana gives him this letter, Sunanda, and then he says, Krishna, now you have finished reading the letter. Now whatever has to be done, you do first. That's all he says. Krishna doesn't reply at all. He leaves her on blue ticks. It's kind of rude, no? Or does Krishna respond? Eventually, we all know he goes. Rukmini Kalyanam happens. We all know he goes. But does he respond? Let's look at Krishna's 5 points earlier and see what is there. Look at Rukmini's stone, first thing. If I have been true to my brothers, if my dharma has been true, what is the first point Krishna said? If you have followed, are you following your swadharma? Here, if my swadharma has been true, there, are you following your swadharma? Number one. What is the second thing Krishna says? Santushta manasa sada, is your mind at ease. A way of saying you keep your mind at ease. You don't worry. You are following your swadharma. You keep your mind at ease. When your mind is at ease, you will be able to plan. You will be able to strategize because only on a clear surface of water can you see the reflection. You can't see it when you throw something in the water or when the water is moving. Keep your mind steady. The blessings will come. And these blessings that come will result in contentment. You remain content, O Rukmini. You have been following your dharma. And now let me come. And one beautiful line is there saying, is the king taking care of you well? The king is the Hridaya. Is the heart taking care of you well? Is the one inside the heart taking care of you well? Is the last question. Meaning, it's a way of saying your lover inside over there is already communicating with you, know that he will come. So what is there to worry? Krishna's response came before he opened the letter. If you would decode it, you will realize there is no need for him to respond to the Brahmana later. He has already seen the contents of the letter before it came and he has merely communicated it to Sunanda saying, Sunanda is just the context that he sets up over there. Saying, oh Brahmana, I hope you are following this. This is not about Brahmana Jati through birth. This applies to anybody. Rukmini Sandesham. It's beautiful because it applies to anybody who is on two paths. One is that path which is filled with despair, distress, and hope. Despair, distress, and hope all at the same time. Despair and distress from the outside world, hope from the inner world, saying, no, whatever is happening outside, I know you won't leave me. That is one. The second is, it is for anybody in this universe who wants step-by-step guide of how to fall in love with Krishna. Rukmini Sandesham is what you need to become. Because she teaches us how when you send a communication to Paramatma, Paramatma will respond. What does he tell the Brahmana? To such a person who is following all this, I myself will bow down. I will become your dasa. Shiva, at the end of Parvati's tapas is for Shiva. At the end of that, Shiva appears to her and he says, I am now your dasa. You tell me what you want. We all think Bhagavan is great, Bhagavan is great. Bhagavan bows down in front of Bhagavatas. Because Bhagavatas alone have the capacity to hold Bhagavan. He himself says, I will do a namaskaram to such people. He is internally doing that namaskaram to this Prema Swarupini, to this Amrita Swarupam. This Amritam has now reached him in the form of a letter. And this letter, if you read it from the external perspective, it is all the bullet points. If you read it internally, how beautifully she describes how to fall in love with him. And this is something that we all go through, where we wonder, how does one actually fall in love with Paramatma? But how do I feel it? Shrutva, hear Gunan, hear about him. Listen as much as you can. Parikshit, this very grantham that we are taking this story from, all Parikshit did for 7 days was listen. Through Shravanam he attained moksha. Not through anything else, just through Shravanam. That is the power associated with this. Because Shravanam has one extraordinary capacity. When Bhagavata Katha comes out from somebody and goes into someone's ears, Bhagavat Namam will be there. Bhagavat Gunam will be there. Bhagavat Rupam will be there. Namam, Gunam, Rupam. Leela, Bhagavat Tattvam. These 5. Namam, Gunam, Rupam, Leela, Tattvam. Bhagavat Namam will be there. Oh, Rama did this, Krishna did this, Shiva did this. Namam is going on constantly. That itself is vibrating. That itself is a bija. That goes inside. Bhagavat Rupam. Then that Krishna tucked his Pitambaram in, picked up his flute and decided to play a beautiful melody. You imagined or not? Rupam. As soon, just Shabda is going on. I don't have an LED screen for you behind me, but you have one in your eyes. That is the power that Bhagavad Katha activates. It gives Rupam. Rupam goes in. Bhagavat Gunam. Oh, I have heard that you have this capability to come and to protect those who need you. Gatti Vadavani Patti Dinichaya. I have heard about this. I've heard that you held people's hands. You hear about Bhagavat Gunas. Oh, okay, this is how Bhagavan is. Bhagavat Leela. Oh, in all these cases you came. You came like this for Gajendra. You came like this for Ajamila. You came like this for Markandeya. All this will come. And Bhagavata Katha, this is what you stand for. These 5 things, where are they present? Bhagavata Katha. You don't have to look for complicated ideas. It is in Bhagavad Katha. Listen as much as you can. Let it go in. When it goes in, think about what went in. We also will think about it till it's 7:45 p.m. Then we are care of Syrian. The more you think, oh, this happened, that happened, what eventually, first layer of doubts will come. Okay, but this logically happened here, this happened there. But beyond that, the layer of attachment starts to come. Knowingly or unknowingly, how many of us related to Rukmini in some capacity or the other? Attachment comes to the character. I'm using character very loosely because it doesn't do justice to the idea. But when we associate with those patras, with those beings, what happens is we become a part of that story. And that is the easiest way. Rukmini's bhagyam that she shares with the entire world is, how do you fall in love here? We have underestimated this. And that is why satsangam is important. Because the more you hear about him, the more it goes in. One phenomenal Mahatma says this even about Vedanta. He said you should do Vedanta Shravanam whether you understand or not, whether you are awake or not in that pravachanam, you just go and sit. Because even that has power and it will germinate, if not in this life, in another life. Only that can explain why some people from a very young age, Prahlada as an example, pick it up. Because what goes in, Prahlada also heard it from Narada's mouth when he was inside his mother's garbha. That is the power of this. Once it goes in, what happens? With the Bhagavat Namam, Rukmini is doing sadhana. And the more that sadhana grows, the more you have the ability to say, Ninkoskara Swami, Perumal, this is for you, Perumal. This is all for you. Then it doesn't become an external action. It becomes something we feel. What happens after this? Eventually, look at Rukmini's letter. She says, you have to come for me. If you don't come, Samsara is coming. Samsara here, she is called as Shishupala. Shishupala, Rukmini means something. We will come to that in some time. And she says, if you don't come, there's no meaning in this life. If this human life is not utilized for you, it is vyartham. It is pointless. You can accomplish 5,000 other things with it. But if you do not use it to strive for Paramatma, the result is not in our hand. There is no guarantee that if we begin sadhana now, in this very life we will attain. But as long as the attempt is there, there is always, always, always going to be a response from the other side. What is the response? He bows down and he says, I am a dasa to such a being. So bhakti is greater or Bhagavan is greater? Trick question. Bhakti is greater. Because through bhakti alone you can know Bhagavan. Through Bhagavan you cannot know Bhagavan. But bhakti becomes the marga to know him. And Rukmini in this context is the ideal bhakta. She shows us how to fall in love. You really want to fall in love with Krishna? Just go home and read Rukmini Sandesha. There are tons and tons of beautiful translations of it available in multiple languages. Just go home and read the Sandesham alone. And imagine yourself in that context. This is when we have to build activities for ourselves. Go home and write a love letter to Krishna for yourself. Don't put it on Instagram the next day. Just do it for Krishna. Because we are living in times when sadhana is meant more for the world than it is meant for Paramatma. Sadhana is supposed to be as silent as you can. If it brings you joy to share it, but be aware that the mind is very fickle. The second you tell 3 people, actually Janmashtamiಗೆ ನಾನು ಚಪ್ಪನ್ ಹೋಗ್ ಮಾಡೋಣ ಅಂತ ಅನ್ಕೊಳ್ತಿದ್ದ ಇದ್ದೀನಿ. Oh, beautiful. I thought I'll make 56 things. That is ahankaram. It comes from the back door. We don't realize it. That is why our ancestors said, do sadhana silently. The more you do it silently, the more intimacy develops. And what happens to such a being? When you send an SOS like that, after living in sadhana, your SOS, whether it goes through Sunanda or WhatsApp or from one heart to the other, he will respond. And how? Immediately he looked at this Brahmana, and there's one folk version in which he says, "Oh, Brahmana Sunanda, you are still standing in front of me? After giving me this letter, you should have had a chariot ready, no?" And Sunanda is like, "I thought it's your responsibility to take." In Bhagavatam, it's very beautiful. He says, "Immediately call for the 4 fastest horses that I have." 4 of them are called. And Krishna and Sunanda reach Dwarka. They leave Dwarka and they reach Kundinapura, they reach Vidarbha. Now, the situation shifts. As soon as Krishna leaves, somebody else is in Dwarka saying, "Abba, puna yen ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೇನಪ್ಪ ಇವನು ನಾನು ಹೋಗ್ಬೇಕಾಗುತ್ತೆ." Who is that? Balarama. Because Balarama is well aware what Krishna's plan is. That relationship is so beautiful, Krishna didn't have any time to explain anything to Balarama. Because Krishna was responding to a bhakta in distress. So Krishna is going. Balarama knows exactly what it's for. And he says, "I know what's going to happen." Krishna's entry into Vidarbha, into Kundinapura, will not be met without resistance. There will be people who will oppose this alliance. So I have to go now and I have to take the entire Akshavani Sena with me and go. So Balarama follows. That is the way he looks out for Krishna. The way Adisesha looks out for Perumal, that is a relationship only Devotee can know. 2 avatars show it. This is one avatar, Rama avatar is another one. Someday we'll talk about their relationship. Now, Krishna has arrived. Krishna has arrived into Vidarbha and the scene is shifted. So it's a greatly festive atmosphere. From the next morning onwards, the next morning is supposed to be the wedding. Meanwhile, here, the Nandi Shraddhas have begun, and everywhere, Rigveda, Yajurveda, Samaveda, and Atharva Veda, homas are being conducted for Rukmini's welfare. Meanwhile, Shishupala's father, Dhamagosha, he has begun ceremonies for Shishupala. Wedding brings together multiple things. One amongst them is the blessings of Pitru Devatas. That is why we begin with the concept of Nandi Shraddha. That whenever any Shubhakarya happens, the first thing we do is take permission from the ancestral lineage, saying, "You come and bless what is about to happen," and take namaskarams, offer namaskarams to the entire department that is watching over our ancestors. That is how we remain in gratitude. We have a bond, a debt with them. Until Pitruruna is cleared, no moksha. One of the beautiful ideas of clearing that Pitruruna through gratitude is Nandi Shraddha. We are talking about weddings, so I'm just bringing this up in context because when we look at what happens in a wedding, it's so beautiful. That when we look at these portions, there is entirely a mood of gratitude that is set up, except for 2 people. Who are those 2 people? 2 people are not feeling any of these emotions at all. I hope you are not one of those 2 people. Who are those 2 people? Hey, Shishupala Tumba feel ಮಾಡ್ತಾನೆ, but he's very happy. In fact, in his garden, he has renamed one entire tota after Rukmini. Keloru, when they are in mood, they will get into all these kind of very exciting romantic ventures. They have already called one Rukmini Vana also. So Shishupala is in full mood, I assure you. Who is not in a mood? Thank God, that took a while. Okay, who is the other person? Rukmini's father, Bhishmaka. Bhishmaka is powerless against his son, but he's secretly hoping that Krishna will come, and there's no sign of Krishna just yet. So he also loses hope, but he cannot say anything else loud. And Krishna does arrive. And Krishna enters. Bhishmaka is so happy, he gives him the area, the guest house that was meant for Shishupala, he gives it off to Krishna. Now, when Krishna comes like this, Rukmini has no idea. She is still inside. And when she is sitting inside unhappy, she thinks, Brahma is not happy with me, Vishnu is not happy with me, Shiva is not happy with me. That is why nobody has come. That is why he has not come. Not one Sandesha has come for me. I think it is time to end my life. All of this is running through her mind. At that same moment, one messenger arrives. That same Sunanda comes back and he said, "Amma, Swami is coming." Does this happen elsewhere?
Yes,
I want to give up my life. There is no news from him. And in that moment, somebody says, Shuddha Brahma Bharat Pararam. Connections, one thing to another. When you are yearning for him, he will find a way to communicate with you. When you are at your rock bottom, he will pick you up. In that moment, he is Varahaswamy. He is picking you up. Because you are drowning in Shoka Samudra. He will pick you up. He will find a way to do it. You have to be open to it. Sita Rukmini. Paraspara Tattva. Same Tattva. Same character in two different contexts. And now Sunanda comes. And Bhagavatam describes Sunanda doesn't have to say anything. Rukmini looks at his expression and she says, he's coming now. Because Sunanda is smiling, that brings Rukmini a smile. Nothing more is required to be said. And in that moment, in Garga Bhagavatam, Rukmini says something so beautiful to Sunanda. She says, Oh Vipra, oh Sunanda, for what you have done for me. Bhagavatam says, Mula Bhagavatam says, she doesn't know what to give him for this news. Because when somebody comes to you, especially true of people who are in any degree of affluence, when somebody comes and gives you good news, it is customary to give them something as a token of your gratitude. She says, what can I give you? Which is equal to the happiness you gave me. I can only give you my deepest blessing. That is what she says, which is basically a way of saying, Moksha Samrajya Lakshmi will always be, her hand will be on you. In Garga Bhagavatam, it's very clear. She says, for 7 generations, I will not forsake you. And if you see and you trace the journey of this messenger, all he did was take a message from Rukmini to Krishna and return and come back and communicate that Krishna is coming. What did he get in return for this? This same Sunanda reincarnated as Vadiraja Tirtha Swami. And Vadiraja Tirtha Swami, a guru who needs no introduction of the Madhva Sampradaya, he wrote a phenomenal piece of work by name Rukminisha Vijayam. Loop got connected. Dot got connected. Rangoli gets formed. One thing that you do in the past will come later and it will elevate you to a different level of consciousness. Rukminisha Vijayam is an extraordinary piece of work which shows Vadiraja Swami's love for Krishna. Where did that come from? It came when you put a little bit of karpura in your hand. Even if you remove that karpura, that smell will persist. Carrying Rukmini's Sandesham, which is pregnant with meaning, went inside his own jiva. Add to that his own sadhana, and finally it resulted in something beautiful like that. When you read Rukminisha Vijayam, read it with this power. It's not just an academically or an intellectually beautiful work. It is the outpour of all Rukmini's bhavas that went inside this bhakta and expressed itself like this. So this is Sunanda's Katha. Now, Rukmini hears this news and she is delighted because now there is no reason to worry. So the next morning, the fateful morning has come. When this morning has arrived, Rukmini, as she promised and as she told him, as specifically as she told him, I will be going for Kuladevi Yatra. The Kuladevata of this kingdom is Gauri Devi, Ambika Devi. Her temple can still be found in Amravati of Maharashtra, in that region. That is believed to be the exact temple where Rukmini's ancestors used to worship and where Rukmini herself went. She goes there with all of her handmaidens. And as she makes her way inside, it's so beautiful that Rukmini is doing Gauri Puja. Because here is where you see the beauty of what comes together in a marriage. There is a beautiful sampradayam, particularly in Dakshina Bharatam, of the girl, the Vadhu, just before she goes on to the Vedika, onto the Kalyana Mantapa, she performs Gauri Puja and goes. Rukmini, when she was performing this, followed the same niyamas that are followed till today, the most important amongst them being Maunam. When Gauri Puja is being done, you cannot speak to anybody. You will see this particularly towards Andhra side. That entire time that Kumkum Puja is being done to Gauramma, you have to be silent. Because your ekagrata is necessary. Why? Because this portion of the wedding is when you are asking, she herself is Sarvamangala Mangalye. She is the source of all Mangalya. You are asking to be connected to her. You are saying, Amma, with your blessings, I will live eternally as a Sumangali. I will live eternally with my husband. Your concentration in that moment is deeply important. So Gauri Puja, Rukmini herself does. This is Adarsha Tattvam. Devatas have two portions. Aradhya Tattvam, that which we can only worship. We cannot emulate that. Second is Adarsha Tattvam. How do our Devatas live? You read Ramayana, every second sentence Valmiki will say, and then Rama stopped to perform Sandhya Vandana Ityadi Karyakramas. Because whether he's in Vanvasam, whether he's with Vishwamitra, whether he's in the palace, Swadharma Palana is on his mind. Do they live a life of Dharma? Yes. And that's the life of Dharma they teach us to follow, saying, oh yes, I have to remember that I need to do these things. It's not just about religious observances. It's about how do we guide and follow the way they think. Rukmini did not say, excuse me, Mahalakshmi. She did. To set an example. Firstly, Gauri Tattva and Lakshmi Tattva is identical. That is why for the Mangal Sutra that is woven, it's such a beautiful context. It is a 1 minute deviation from the Katha can we take to explore this Tattva because we are speaking about the Kalyanam. The Mangal Sutra, contrary to a more modern take on it, is not a sexist sign of being owned by a man. There is a very beautiful concept in Sanatana Dharma where any puja, when it is done, a devata is invoked. Avahayami, we say. Whether it is Ganapati, whether it is Subramanya, whether it is Devi, Vishnu, Shiva, Ityadi namas are all changing. But the tattva means you will invite. You will say Avahayami, Sthapayami, Pujayami. I am inviting you, I am asking you to be seated, I am going to do puja to you. At the end of the puja, what do? Because you have put your own prana shakti over there, you have to feed them, you have to take care of them. After that, you ask them to leave. You tell them wherever you came from, Yathasthanam Punah Pratisthapayami. I am placing you back wherever I brought you from. This is necessary after any puja. This you will see in a few days when Ganesh Chaturthi comes as well. That before you do the immersion, you have to do the Udvasana. You have to say Yathasthanam Udvasayami or Yathasthanam Punah Pratisthapayami, whichever it is. Because that prana must go back to where it came from. This has one or two exceptions. One exception, when before the Mangal Sutram is worn in a wedding, the Mangalyam, the small gold piece that is put on a thread, that is worshipped by both the bride and the groom. What is that worshipped as? Mahalakshmi is invoked in that. Mahalakshmi or Mahagauri, one of them. That differs based on Sampradayam, whatever, but the Tattvam is the same. Once she is invoked, she is asked to stay there, she is not asked to leave. Any other puja, you necessarily have to finish the Udvasana, only then is the puja complete, barring the Mangal Sutra, barring the Yajnopavitra. Over here, they are asked to reside permanently. So when Lakshmi is asked to stay here, that Lakshmi I am wearing on my neck, that Lakshmi is eternally with me. That is the bhavam of Mangalyam. That is the samskaram and the gauravam that is given to this, what we call as a piece of jewelry. It's not a piece of jewelry, it's a piece of protection. And that is why he ties that saying, may this Lakshmi protect this Lakshmi Nara. That is the bhavam over there. So now this Rukmini is doing Gauri Puja with that bhavam. She is doing Gauri Puja, but her mind is on Krishna. That is bhakti. Anything you do, it's attached to him. You cannot take this and say, oh, Rukmini thought of her lover, I can also think of my lover. No. The difference is Rukmini's lover is Sri Krishna Paramatma. Your lover, to the best of most of our understanding, is made of Panchabhautika Deha only. It's made of flesh and bones. Focus on him. Whatever your Ishta Devata is, whatever you're doing Gauri Puja, you're doing your chores, you're doing anything at all, keep your mind fixated on him. And there also, while her mind is fixated on him, she sees that Gauri in front of her and she says, please, O Gauri, if you are pleased with me, O Girirajatanaya, O daughter of the mountains. What a beautiful intimacy, a moment of intimacy. These fights between different communities don't exist in this realm at all. These devatas are so fond of each other. She says, oh Giriraja Kumari, if you are pleased with me, if you, whose husband lives on Kailasa Parvata, if you as the mother of Kumara and Kartikeya, Kumara and Ganesha is pleased with me, then bless me with Krishna to be my husband, and may I be the mother to his children. This is the prayer already gone to Gauri. She concludes this puja, she comes out. Now comes the action part of the day. Because when she comes out, first of all, social norms. She cannot look like this. She is in Vadhu Vesha. She is in the not the guise, but the costume, if that can be loosely translated, of a bride. So there is an expectation of coyness. Now, what has happened is she has come out, and when she has come out, all the kings who have come for the Swayamvara have also come. And one very interesting thing Bhagavatam says over here, that in everybody's mind, they all see her, except a few kings who are on Shishupala's side. Minus them, everybody looks at her and thinks, such Adbhuta Saundaryam, only fit for Krishna. But oh, Krishna is not here, is what they think. Meanwhile, our Katha Nayaka says, Manchur Jagabadi, 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 Badi, 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 Badi. And he has come and placed himself there. Rukmini is trying so hard to look, saying, Yellidanappa, I gave him, this is the only moment he can take me. Because now, if he doesn't come here, she will be taken inside and the rest of the rituals will happen inside the palace. That's where she will meet Shishupala. She will not meet Shishupala just now. So Shishupala is actually not on the scene at all. Shishupala is inside performing whatever karyas he has to perform. She is here. This is the one moment which everything depends on. So, in this one moment, she's trying to look from the corner of her eye, on her left, right, in front of her. She's trying to scan the audiences. The audiences are also looking at her. It's not that you're in a mela where everybody is distracted. Everybody is literally looking at her and her alone. That moment of stress, only she knows. When the mic wasn't working, you all were looking at me like that. I know that stress. So, when she's looking like this, she's wondering, has he come? Has he not come? That moment is powerful in a bhakta's journey. That moment is essentially a summary of their journey so far. Is my journey worth enough for him to come? Varuvaro, Varu Taruvaro. Will he come? Will he bring blessings? My mind is little uneasy. Nandana said exactly the same thing. That bhavam that he had for Chidambara Nataraja, Rukmini has for Krishna. Any bhakta has that one question, will he come? And if you ask that question seriously enough, based on the life that you have lived, he will show up. Because in that same moment that she is asking the question, in that same moment she has the drishya of him. And she cannot express her joy, but she cannot contain it. So, her handmaidens who have been with her up till this moment are all confused. Because now suddenly in Rukmini's body language, there is a difference. The same Rukmini who was tight till a few seconds ago has seen him and said, ugly. Now I know. And all of these people are confused, saying, stressed. Now she's so happy. What happened suddenly? Actually, they were confused from the evening before. Because she was crying when she was alone, but suddenly Sunanda came, went, and Rukmini was so happy. Everybody was wondering what is happening. But now, Rukmini just waited. Strength of character is also about appropriateness of behavior. Rukmini did not scream because that will thwart the plan. She knows that if he has come with great strategy and placed himself exactly in her line of vision, she too must let what has to happen happen. That is Sharanagati. Sharanagati, the opposite of Sharanagati is getting in Paramatma's way. Sometimes Paramatma wants to help us, but we get in the way. Because we expect help in exactly that form. That is what a beautiful conversation happened very recently between a guru and a shishya, where a guru said, never go to Paramatma with desires. Because if you go, Paramatma is so simple. Bholenath is called. Shiva is called Bholenath. Paramatma, Shiva, Vishnu, words used interchangeably. So simple, he'll say, oh, eat beka, sorry, I'll give it to you. But what he actually planned was much more. But because you said I wanted only chocolate, he was thinking of entire chocolate factory. But because you went there so much and cried saying chocolate beko, chocolate beko, chocolate beko, he said tago chocolate inside you. So don't go with desires. Go being open to his plan. Rukmini doesn't know what his plan is. She has laid the plan out earlier, but she doesn't know what in this moment is going to happen. So all she does very, very calmly. This is what sadhana does. In that moment, when you don't know, when things are very uncertain, sadhana will give you that calmness of mind, and allow you to proceed step by step. She just literally moves 2 steps and forward. She stretches out her hand as if she's stretching it. Krishna takes this as a sign and he knows who that hand is stretched out for. And as everybody is watching, this is the beauty. Everybody is watching. Jarasandha is there. There are other Rajas who have come supporting Shishupal. They've all come and they all have come thinking they've come for a Swayambara. They don't know who the joke is on. They're all watching. Krishna's chariot comes through. Krishna just takes her hand that is outstretched, puts her gently onto his chariot. The same way Garuda came, took Amrita and Pashyatam Sarvalokanam, all the lokas were watching, nobody moved. Everybody is seeing him kidnap her in front of their eyes, nobody moved. Krishna Tattva. When he works, nobody can contest that magic. And Jagan Mangaladayaka and Jagan Mohana Vigraha has come. He is the most beautiful. Pumsam Mohana Rupaya. He is attractive to every being, every prani, irrespective of whether it's a human body or any body. When that form of Paramatma comes, it will leave you in a state of stambhanam. You will not be able to respond. That is Krishna. That when he comes, tongue-tied, speech-tied, hand-tied, leg-tied. That's what happens. And they're all like this. They're watching. He thought he'll have some great struggle with everybody, some discount, Sholay type scene, nothing. Rukmini gets in and he asks the chariot to speed through. Way is given for Krishna. And when Krishna is out of their reach, the rest of them say, oh my God, what just happened? That is Yoga Maya Shakti. That when he comes, he knows how to use that Shakti also. That same Shakti he used in Bhagavad Gita before he delivered it. Because he knows Yoga Maya is in his control. He is not in Maya's control. That is what makes him Paramatma. That is what makes us Jivatma. We are in Yoga Maya's control, not the other way around. When this happens, immediately Jarasandha, who once thought he defeated him, said, 17 times I have lost to him. No point. I will go and I will tell Shishupal, this is not happening. And he dissuades other people from going behind. But they all get angry. It's not that there's no reaction whatsoever. And that is when Balabhadra's thoughts come in extremely handy. Because Balabhadra came with an entire army. So all of Balarama's army now combated the army of those kings that wanted to run after Krishna. This happened. Meanwhile, Rukma also in some versions is called as Rukmi. But Rukmini's brother, was deeply insulted. Because he promised Shishupala, I will give my sister's hand in marriage to you. Now it is so embarrassing for him. Human ego. The story is real because what about my Matu? Paramatma is in front of you. Your Matu will not have that much value. Cannot be married to your words, to your commitment. When the universe has manifested in front of you and said, your words have only so much power, my words and my actions have much greater power. Humility is in recognizing that. It's not to say our commitment is not important, but recognizing what was the intent of the commitment. The commitment did not come from a space of Sharanagati. It came from him wanting to make a political alliance out of the entire marriage. That plan is destroyed. So he says, I will not enter Vidarbha until I have killed Krishna. So he follows Krishna's chariot. And when he goes following Krishna's chariot, eventually he does catch up. And Krishna and he are locked in duel. He takes out the sword, Krishna takes out the sword, and he's about to kill him. And she says, Krishna, you promised, and you came here on the condition that you will not let the blood of my relatives spill. Let him be. So Krishna said, okay, I will let him be. I will, however, give him a reminder of what he has done. And that is not Krishna punishing, that is our karmas punishing us. So he shaves off half his mustache, which is the ultimate sign of a deep insult to a warrior. And now Rukma does not want to go back. So he says, I cannot go back like this. And I will not enter back into Vidarbha until I kill Krishna. That is the commitment that he makes. So he never goes back. Balarama comes in this moment and he says, Krishna, how can you possibly think of killing him like this? Balarama scolds him. Krishna smiles, looks into the future when eventually Balarama is the one who is going to kill Rukmi, and he says, sorry, Annaya, my bad. And he settles it. He then proceeds with Rukmini. All the way, if you map it, it's very beautiful. Last night I was just mapping it on Google Maps to actually observe the distances. It's over 2000 kilometers in one place. The entire distance, and I forget the numbers because math is not my strong point, but it is certainly 1500 plus kilometers between Vidarbha to Dwarka. And that is why he stops in one place in between. That is believed to be the place where the actual wedding happens between both of them. That place is known as Madhavpur Chet. It's a very beautiful place. When you go to Dwarka, you should explore it. It's close to Dwarka. You can feel the energy. There are these Gupta Kshetras where Paramatma and his Shakti have combined. This is one such. There is one such place in Vrindavan where Radha and Krishna came together. There is the temple in Uttarakhand where Shiva and Parvati came together. Each of these places, the ground is a reminder of how powerful that Kshetra is. So they do this, and then Shuka Yogindra finishes the story saying, they go back to Dwarka, they live happily ever after. But does the story finish here? I know you're all looking at your watch to answer that question. But the story doesn't finish here. The story starts here. Because Rukmini, up till now, who showed us what it is to love him with all your heart, what does that give you? That gives you the status of being his chief queen. His Samrajnya is dictated by her. That is why you have this very beautiful story. You all know the story about how Sudama comes. And when Sudama comes, he comes with a little bit of avlaki. And he's so hesitant to give that. Because he thinks, how can I give the Lord of the universe? Look at what he has now. When we were growing up, it was different. We all have this with friends that are now in different financial circles. Sense of embarrassment. I can't show him that I only come like this. So he doesn't want to show. But Krishna pulls what is inside our hearts. And he says, what is that in your pocket? Your dhoti, it is tucked away. Little No, I want it. What is it? Little aval. Give. No. Give no. I want. That's what Krishna wants. What you do out of love, he wants. That is the only thing he wants. So he takes it. And he starts to eat it. And you will see different versions talk about this incident so beautifully. Because he puts one morsel into his mouth and he's so happy. Through this story, what have we learned? Krishna is very fond of avlaki. Krishna is Akhilanda Koti Brahmanda Nayaka. For a little bit of avlaki, he's not desperate. Because we tend to quickly rationalize these things. The story is not about avalaki mahatmya. It is about prema mahatmya. So what happens here? As soon as he takes one morsel, he's eaten it and he's so happy. He takes one more morsel and he's happy. The third morsel he's about to eat, somebody stops him. Amina. She's not controlling his diet. She has something else in her mind. Rukmini works in very, very mysterious ways. So this entire episode is over. Sudama goes back. Of course, Sudama goes back to find that he now has gotten those very riches that he desperately needed to come out of poverty. Krishna asks Rukmini, why? Why did you stop me when I was about to eat that third morsel? And she said, Swami, when you ate the first morsel, you removed Koti Janma Daridrata for him. Based on his own karmas, whatever daridryam he was experiencing, whatever poverty he was experiencing, you removed that with one morsel that you ate. In the second morsel that you ate, you gave him Tribhuvana Sampada. You gave him enough wealth from across the three realms. And for multiple lifetimes of his, he will not be poor. In the last morsel you ate, if you had eaten it, you would have given me also after. Your entire thing, you would have given your entirety. Your entirety is me. You would have given me away to him. And I have to be with you. That is Rukmini. There is one beautiful conversation. There is a beautiful conversation which happens between Rukmini and Krishna. And I think I have shared this before, but we cannot not talk about it when we talk about Rukmini and Krishna. Where one day they're both sitting in the palace of Dwarka, and she tells him, she says, she's thinking of his Madhura leelas, the leelas that happened when he was a small boy. There he showed his divinity, but with so much endearment. So she said, Pa, everybody is very excited to call you one particular name. You know what name that is? It seems one day, onchoor made was coming. So you went and you picked up one small mound of ground. For that, everyone is saying, Tena tvam divi bhutale cha satatam govardhanodharaka. After that, everybody on earth, everybody in heaven is saying, Oh, Govardhanodhara, Govardhanodhara. But you know what? I don't think that's a big deal at all. That's fine. You carried these mountains. This mountain, this little hillock called Govardhana, you carried it. Good job. But you're getting so much credit for it. However, you tell me what is the big deal in this? You carried a little mountain, everybody is giving you credit. I carry you in my heart, I'm not getting any credit. Kimva Keshava Bhashanena Bhakranam Punye Yasho Labhyate. Anyway, Punya Yavak Bharatandre, only if you have some, or rather Yasha. When will you get some fame? You will only get fame if you have some Punya. Paduke Nanik Badila, Nanik Badta credit. This statement of Rukmini ascertains Bhagavan is greater or Bhagavata is greater. Bhagavata is greater because Bhagavata carries Bhagavan. Bhagavan carries the words. Bhagavata carries Bhagavan. That alone gives Bhagavata the right to be Bhagavanta's chief queen. That is why Rukmini is his Pattapurani. She is the one that is standing by his side. She is the one here standing by his side in this very kshetram as well, giving him that permission. What Radha does in Vrindavanam, Rukmini does in Dwaraka. There is no distinction between the two. Radha gives Anumati for every being to enter the Rasa Mandala, to say this being has earned it, Krishna, I am giving permission. Rukmini gives permission for them to attain moksha. That's all. No difference between the two. When you do that bhavam, now you see why for Radha Ashtami we chose the topic of Rukmini Kalyanam, to show that paraspara bhavam. Because we are in times when devatas are being separated. No, I am only an upasaka of Radha, I am only an upasaka of Rukmini. Krishna did not make those distinctions. Who are we to make? That bhavam is Rukmini. With all this and more, there is a small portion left to be able to offer at Rukmini and Krishna's feet. But before that, with all this bhavam, Rukmini and Krishna sitting together, this moment is said to have happened on a swing when she teased him so beautifully. So can we keep that vision in our mind and witness the Mangalarti with that bhava and then proceed to then conclude the entire offering towards that? Rukmini, Krishna. A love story beyond what textbooks can talk about, because a lot of people wonder, why isn't there enough material about Rukmini? Because the problem is we're looking for material. Theirs is not a story of just material. It is a story that is fueled by deep, deep love and deep understanding of how the other works. When Rukmini and Krishna came together in Kalyanam, something extraordinary happened. Every time Paramatma comes together with his Shakti, Jagat comes into being, the universe comes into being. So, there is always Jagatopakaraka, there is Upakarakam, there is Upakaram for the universe. That is why, when normally the Mangal Sutram is tied, the shlokam says, Mangalyam Tantunanena, Mama Jivana Hetuna, Mama Jivana, for our lives together. Kanthe Badhnami Shubhage, Tvam Jiva Sharadashata. This is not just a Bollywood song, it's an actual shloka. Surprise. Now, when Paramatma's Vivaha is performed, when Paramatma's Kalyanam is performed, this is not the shlokam that is read. The Archakas will tell you that. Mangalyam Tantunanena Jagat Jivana Hetuna Kanthe Badhnami Shubhage Trailokyam Mangalam. May this coming together of us bring auspiciousness in the three worlds. That is the reason that a Sita Kalyanam, a Rukmini Kalyanam, a Radha Kalyanam, a Meenakshi Kalyanam, a Girija Kalyanam is performed. Because when they come together, knowingly or unknowingly, there is always joyousness and auspiciousness that comes together. It is born from their union. When Purusha and Prakriti come together. Same happens with Rukmini and Krishna. In this Kalyanam, it is hidden. The way it happens is not direct. This is linked to another story. When somebody was trying to convince Mahadeva to quickly, instead of letting Mahadeva's tapas go at speed 1x, this person tried to do it on 2x and he got burnt. Who is that? Kamadeva. So Kamadeva was burnt to ashes and Rati went crying to Shiva saying, I wanted my husband and my husband did a Daiva Karyam. So was it fair to kill him? He said he did a Daiva Karyam, but what was the Manobhava? What was the arrogance? Or what was the mental state that he did the entire activity with? He thought, oh, I will win over Parameshwara. That is what I corrected. You want your husband back, your husband will come back. He will be reborn. When in the future, Krishna marries Rukmini, when Vishnu incarnates as Krishna and marries Rukmini, their son will be none other than your husband. That son is Pradyumna. That Tattvam is unlocked in the next chapter of the Bhagavatam. But that is how Shukha Yogendra told the story and left it. So I'll also leave it over there. But that Bhavam talks about what happens when they both come together. Love is born from them. Manmatha is love. He's not Cupid. He's love. Love is born from them. They come together because of love. How is love born from them? Their prema is beyond our understanding. But from them comes the love that takes us back to them. They teach us how to love them. God teaches us how to love God. And there are so many ways to learn that lesson. If we keep ourselves open to that, we will see. That is why Rukmini's stories, she will show how to love him so very beautifully. That is the beautiful episode when she tells him what she just did about Govardhana. But I would be failing in my duty today if I stopped over here. Because along with Rukmini, there is one other force that is always seen behind him, on either side of him. Rukmini is on one side, and this force is on the other side. Although today is Rukmini Kalyanam, to not pay homage to her did not seem right. So if I have your indulgence for about 5 to 10 minutes, can we speak about her? She deserves a phenomenal katha in itself. She has a phenomenal katha and deserves phenomenal time. But there is an uddesham that Swami had, which got revealed only last night. So I will just share that with you and then leave this entire idea with you in your hearts. So this is a very common murti that we see. Rukmini Satyabhama Sameta Gopala Krishna. Each of them, if you see, each of his Ashtabharyas came in different contexts to him. Satyabhama came in a very interesting context. We all know this story, but I'm just going to focus on something very interesting. Satrajit, a king who is given a phenomenal stone or a gem known as the Shyamantakamani. The Shyamantakamani has this amazing ability to deliver 8 times its weight in gold on a daily basis. Imagine. So Satrajit got this Shyamantakamani and Krishna told him, I think it's better you keep it in a place where it's not with you. For your own sake, I'm suggesting. Because when wealth comes flowing in like that and you don't know how to handle it, it can wash you out. Satrajit is not very happy with this advice. So he dismisses Krishna. And he meanwhile has set up similar to Rukmi. He doesn't have hatred towards Krishna. But just like Rukmi, he has plans of who he wants to get his daughter married to. And his daughter is Satyabhama. Satyabhama loves her father dearly. She doesn't want to tell him that she has fallen in love with Krishna. So, meanwhile, Satrajit notices this thing. He doesn't part with his gem except to give it to his brother. One day, his brother, Prasenajit fights with Satrajit and he says, I want a gem. I want to wear it on my neck and I want to the forest. I want to go hunt with this because this thing glows. Shyamantakamani glows. So he takes it and he goes. He doesn't come back for many days. Nobody knows what has happened to Prasenajit. Now, unknown to everybody inside the forest, deep within the forest, Prasenajit, when he was shooting, a lion saw this Shyamantakamani on his beak and mistook that to be prey. So the lion went towards him. It mistook this gem to be the eye of a deer. So it killed Prasenajit and pulled the money which was on a chain of Prasenajit, and it went further into the forest, taking the money in its mouth. There in the forest, it met an old bear, and the old bear thought, Jambavan thought, oh, this will make a beautiful necklace for my daughter. So he fights with the lion, kills the lion, and he takes the gem and goes inside his cave. All this is happening inside the forest. There is no CCTV camera, so nobody knows what's happened. Meanwhile, Prasenajit has not come back for days. So Satyajit is worried about what has happened to his brother, and he thinks, why did this happen? This happened because he doesn't know what has happened, but he knows the only thing that has happened is Shyamantak money has disappeared, so has his brother. So why has this happened? I think this has happened because of Krishna. Krishna wanted that gem for himself, so I think he's killed my brother. Meanwhile, this news comes to Krishna, and he now has to prove himself. So Krishna goes to the forest. I'm cutting a very long story, very short. Goes to the forest, goes and traces. He finds Satyajit's decaying body. Then he sees lion paw prints. Then he sees the lion carcass. After this, he sees a cave, and he goes inside the cave. When he goes inside the cave, he sees an old bear. This old bear can barely see. And as soon as Krishna comes in, he thinks, oh, some animal has come in that is a threat. So he immediately hits him. Again, Sri Vanamalima writes about this in her book, and she says, Krishna will receive everything from his devotees, even if they are slaps. This devotee slapped him, and they engaged in a combat for 21 days. At the end of 21 days, the old bear Jambavan realized the one who he was fighting with was that same Sri Ramachandra. When in Ramavataram, Jambavan came and he told him, only Ravana's Sainyam knows the joy of fighting with you. I also want that bhagyam. And Rama said, ಈ ಅವತಾರ ನಾನು ನಿಜವಾಗ್ಲೂ ಒಂಚೂರು ಟೈಮ್ ಇಲ್ಲ ನನಗೆ. I promise next time ನಾನು ಎಲ್ಲ ನೋಡ್ಕೊಳ್ತೀನಿ. This is what he said. I'm telling you, Rama Avatara, the planning he does. When he is walking in the Vanavasam, the Rishi Patnis think to himself, look at the way Sita is walking with him. We want to have that bhagyam. When can we share the bhagyam that Sita is to walk as his Sahadharmachari, to walk as his Dharma Patni? They don't say it out loud. And Rama also doesn't say it out loud, but he says, in this avatara, I really don't have time, but I promise in next avataram I will come. Those Rishi Patnis become Gopikas. From previous Janma, there is a link. Jambavan also had previous Janma link. So, he recognizes that Krishna Chandra now became Ramachandra for him. And he realized who it was, and he said, and Rama/Krishna says, you had that kinchit vasana. I came for that. Your desire will make him come back. You don't have to go anywhere. So he came and he finished this. And Jambavan said, you came just for me. I don't know how else to show my gratitude than to tell you, my daughter who is my life, who is my everything, I'll give my everything to you. That is the theme of this evening, giving your everything to him. So he gives Jambavati along with the bonus prize of Shyamantak money. So Krishna meanwhile goes back to Satyajit and he says, this is Shyamantak money, this is what really happened. And Krishna, who has been wrongly framed, now he clears himself of this. However, Satyajit is very embarrassed by what has happened because he has, in some senses, accused Krishna and it has become a public thing. It's very embarrassing. What do you do? And this is also the beauty of Sanatana Dharma. Sanatana Dharma allows scope for mistakes to be made and apologies. Ahalya, she made a mistake. She atoned for it. This cancel culture that we have gotten into today, where one person makes one mistake and we condemn them for 7 lives, say, go never again. That's not what Sanatana Dharma says. If there is paschatapa, if there is regret, if there is prayashchitta, if there is atonement, combination has to be. You have to regret what you've done. And then a way of atonement will find itself. So Satyajit is wondering, what is that way of atonement? Satyabhama comes to her father in that moment and she said, see, Jambavan hit him off for 21 days. What did he do? He gave his daughter. You also do the same thing, no? You have promised my hand to that Shatadhanva, that is the prince that Satyajit wants to get Satyabhama married. But instead of that, for your own Atma Tripti, maybe if you give my hand, you'll feel better. He said, ah, only idea, ma. And he takes Satyabhama's hand and he places her into Krishna's hand and they get married. Now, this is the story. Those of you familiar with the upcoming festival of Vinayaka Chaturthi will read this story on that day with one inclusion of a detail. What is that? Why does all this happen to Krishna? Because he has Chaturthi Chandra Darshana. When he doesn't directly look at the moon, on the night of Chaturthi, he is milking the cows. In the bucket where the milk is, the moon's reflection falls, and because of that, Apaninda, false accusation happens. So this entire thing takes time. The next Vinayaka Chaturthi he performs, and then that is how he goes on. This is what Bhavishyottara Puranam talks about, this story. But there is a connection that we don't see, which comes out so beautiful. To explain this, let's look at Krishna with Rukmini and Satyabhama. Rukmini is Samrajya Lakshmi, Sri Devi. All the intangible wealth that comes from above, below, is all Rukmini. All the tangible wealth on the surface of the earth that comes towards us and nourishes us, that is Satyabhama. Satyabhama is Bhudevi, Rukmini is Sri Devi. Now, to earn Bhudevi's or to gain Bhudevi's companionship, Krishna did puja to Ganapati, who is the ruler of Bhutattva or Mooladhara Chakra. That is why we make Ganapati out of mud, not plaster of Paris. Mud. Non-chemical painted mud. Bhutattva Anusandhanam Yoga. Bhutattva Anusandhanam, Bhudevi comes to him. That is the story, that is the tattva. This idea is what explains why Krishna Paramatma moved Radhashtami celebrations to a few days before Vinayak Chaturthi. So when all of you go back now and you perform Vinayak Chaturthi, you will realize this is for Bhudevi's grace that we are performing this Vratam. That Satyabhama is hidden in the story of Vinayak Chaturthi in this format. This idea, and finally a concluding idea, that when he is with Rukmini and Satyabhama, he becomes a unique form called as Santana Gopala Krishna. Santana Gopala Krishna's mantram and swarupam is Krishna with Rukmini and Satyabhama. And that swarupam gives those who desire children in any format. Either you want to give birth to a child, you want to nourish a child, you want to adopt a child, whatever it is, Santana Saubhagya, it gives you that Santana Saubhagya, that swarupam of Krishna with Sri Devi and Bhudevi on either side bears a phenomenal similarity with somebody else who holds a dandam vertically with two Shaktis on either side, Valli and Devasena, holding the Dandayudham or the Velayudham. Here, that only gets flipped as the Venu. That Velayudhadhara with Valli and Devasena, who also gives Santanam, is no different from this Krishna with Satyabhama and Rukmini, who gives exactly the same bhakti. And that Subramanya is worshipped on Ashlesha Nakshatram, which happens to be today. So the entire movement of this entire Pravachana Yajnam to this particular day is obviously meant for somebody in this Sabha who is desiring Santanam, and may Santana Gopala Krishna's blessings be on them, because it is for the sake of Bhaktas and Bhaktas alone that Bhagavan manifests. And this day, with all its iconic milestones featured in it, is testimony to that. As we conclude and offer this to the feet of Rukmini, Satyabhama and Krishna, the final idea of why did Rukmini not go to Shishupala and go to Krishna and Krishna alone? Shishu. What does Shishu mean? Child. Pala. Pala means taking care of. Inside us also there is a child. A very cranky child. Have you seen cranky children? You will know how joyous they are to be around. They will eat your pranam, but they will make sure they get what they want. The mind is called Shishupala. It is that inner child which is always whining. I want this, I want that. Because when Shishupala is told, by the way, Rukmini ran away with Krishna, his first question is, hey, I named one garden also after her, what about that? Mind or not? Happened to you or not? One guest will cancel, one guest you really wanted to see will cancel. First thing is, what I do with all this food that I made? Same thing. Shishupala is that tendency of the mind which is always whining. It's never happy. Rukmini The idea of the Ruk, as I said, is brightness, glowing. Rukmini represents Hridaya Bhavas. Hridaya Bhavas cannot be deflected to the mind. They cannot be owned by the mind, because then the heart and the mind will not be aligned. Hridaya Bhavas have to go towards Paramatma. If they go towards the mind, they'll get stuck in samsara. That is why Rukmini Kalyanam is the story of the Hridayam calling out to the Hridaya Raja, saying, show me your daya, Hridaya. Show me your compassion and come for me before I get trapped in the mind. That is the heart's prayer. That is Rukmini Sandesha. That is why she did not marry Shyamantak, and she married Krishna and Krishna alone. May that Rukmini, who is Moksha Samraja Lakshmi, may that Satyabhama, who is Veera Sangrama Bhulakshmi, and may that Paramatma, who holds both these powers and from whom these powers emerge, may he be pleased with our sadhana. May he bless us with the bhagyam of seeing him, experiencing him, and being with him in this lifetime and in any lifetime that we take. As we conclude to this Sabha Samudram, to all of you who came from far and near and sat here listening and internalizing an immortal Katha, to the people that are constantly making this happen, to the temple, to this Devasthanam that holds such a special place in my heart, to Navni Tanna, to Babu Mama, to this entire team of Archakas who are just Sauhridayas. They have so much happening in this Devasthana with the renovation, but still they said, no, we'll make it happen. Let's just find another date. That kind of commitment. To Krishna Mama, who true to his name is always facilitating in the background. And to all the volunteers that are present here, who just showed up out of love saying, if you need help, we are here. To the team on the camera, to every single being who is stepping up here, I owe my gratitude to you, because you all remind me that Bhagavata Katha is always, always above everything else. And may that Bhagavata Katha be in our hearts, be in our minds, and ultimately, may we become that Katha. Sarvam Shri Rukmini Satyabhama Krishna Sarvam